Hey all, Board Game Rants here, where you'll find everything solo tabletop gaming and more. End of November, what I've been playing, what I've been thinking about it, it's all coming up. Let's go. So, let's get through some of the basics first. That is, I played a total of 66 game sessions. Some of those were small, so over 12 different games. And some of the small ones were Uno. Played that 6 times. The Mind, I've talked a lot about that. Played that a couple times. Sprawlopolis, my favorite little solo card game, quick fix. Talked a lot about that as well. Codenames, played some Codenames. That I haven't brought out in a bit. You know, it's that time of year when, you know, families getting together, and predominantly I play by myself. Haven't had much of a choice in some cases. No, it's not that I don't like playing with other people. It's just my kind of games. There's very few people that really want to sit there and learn. And quite frankly, that, you know, I wouldn't be able to play very many games if I sat there and taught everybody every game that I ever want to play. So, but holidays, here they are. Thanksgiving, played some Codenames. I like it. It's a great game. It's by Vlaada. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite designer of all time. Just the games that he's, you know, Through the Ages and Dungeon Lords and Mage Knight, and, you know, and then weird like Codenames out of the blue. You know, probably I'm sure it's easily his most popular game that hit mainstream, and so good for him there. I want him to get back to doing the games that I really like. Codenames is good, but, you know, it's just not, it's light. Anyway, so moving on, I played Undertow a couple times. And you'll find in a couple, if I'm talking about a game, I did a couple weekly rants here this past month, and I might just kind of briefly go over those. Undertow is one of those. It's a Too Many Bones. It's in the Too Many Bones series, which, if you've been watching anything that I do, you know that I am extremely fond of Too Many Bones and everything about it. So got a couple plays of Undertow in. Folklore, The Affliction, is one I've been playing with my wife, and we got 3 sessions in over the course of this month. Not as many as I'd like, but we're just kind of, but it's just such a joy playing that game, you know, and with her, and just all sorts of cool stuff happens, and you die and you turn into a ghost. And that's where I'm actually right now. So we're debating, you know, do we go to town, go to the physician, try to revive myself, or do we take the risk? Do we go, you know, because if you get into skirmishes, you're not going to be able to do as much, and all these, you know, there's just fun stuff to figure out about that game, and it all kind of has a great theme to it that you can really get involved in, and the story is just, it's fantastic. Folklore, The Affliction. Triplock, I talked a little bit about that. I played 6 plays of that, and that's in one of the weekly rants. I'll probably just pop up a little thing there if you want to check out more about that one. Then I talked a lot about this too, Founders of Gloomhaven, and that was one that I got for a steal, and I picked it up and I played it. I got 8 plays of that in. I talked a lot about that. That'll be up there. And then so now let's get into one game that I've been playing most recently that I haven't talked about, and then we'll get into the most disappointing experience I had, the biggest surprise that I had, and then the almighty MVP of the month. So, one game I just kind of started playing, and the verdict, the jury's out, the verdict's not in. Anyway, Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan. It's a very highly touted, and it seems to me that no one's really experienced it solo. I haven't seen any videos on it. I haven't seen anybody try it really. And you know, but the price of this game is very fair. It was you know, $50, and it seemed like a lot of game, and I, you know, got it, picked it up, set it out, and it feels like a lot of game. And you know, initially though, one of my first gut things about it is I don't understand, you know, it could look so much better, and maybe it had to do with the price point, but they have dice that you move around on the board that you kind of level up from 1 to 6, and then you ascend, and then you go back down to 1, and it's a cool concept, but I don't know why they use dice. Dice are it seems like a fill-in thing, like what you would use to, if you didn't have the official gizmo, or like a prototype thing almost, like. And you're just level 1 to level 2 to level 3, and it's just these dice move, you never roll them. And so it just seems a bit odd. It's just like, you know, when you're building that pyramid, and it could just be a much more stunning looking game than moving around a bunch of dice. It just looks so abstract there, and it could add so much if there was some little figures moving around, just like Mage Knight or any of the, you know, I don't have a lot of games with that clicks system, but you know, they're sitting on a base and you just click it. So level 1, and you could just move around these guys, your workers, and leveling them up, and then they ascend instead of dice. It's just, it just seems weird. I don't know why they picked that, because you never roll them. I mean, if you rolled them for something, that would make sense. And it's like, oh, wow, you got a 2-for-1er there. It's like, oh, I'm moving around. I level up this guy, but occasionally I got to roll them for something. Oh, that's so cool. But there's none of that. So I've been playing it, and I find I've lost pretty bad the first 3 games. The 4th game I just played, and I won barely by 2 points. And so it's starting. I still need to play this. I want to play it a good number more times before I give a good opinion on this. The solo is very complex. Don't try to learn this game solo first, because it's a tough game to really wrap your head around to begin with. And then the solo version is just, well, it's its own game in itself. Now that I'm starting, it took me, you know, I feel like by the end of the 2nd game did I start it, but I got to refer to the book every single time, and it's like, okay, what does it do now? There's just not, I don't like that kind of system. You know, it really needed or what I would have really liked to see, the reference cards. Definitely needed one of those. And, but because nobody, I think, is playing this solo, I've been on Board Game Geek, I've been looking in the files section, trying to find something, because I can't, I'm terrible at making that sort of thing. I mean, I could write down some stuff, but I'm just opening up the book, and it's like, okay, what does it do now? And what, you know, if it can't do that, it does this, and if it doesn't do that, then it does this, and it varies here, and it varies there, and it's just, it's a complex system. I'll be talking more about that game. So let's get into some of the, so let's start with the disappointing game. The disappointment of the month is frickin' Gloomhaven. And not because I don't like the game. I like the game. While I'm playing the game, it is one of the most fantastic experiences in gaming possible. But I thought, for whatever reason, after I played Founders of Gloomhaven, I was like, you know, this sounds like a good idea. I'm just going to bust it out. I miss my characters. I'm going to set one up, and I'm going to do a quick little solo dungeon. There is no such, you can't put the word quick anywhere near Gloomhaven. I mean, just setting up the game it's just so, it drove me crazy. It was such a frustrating experience. Because first, you know, I buzzed through the rule book, and it all clicked pretty quick. But then you're setting out your random dungeon, and you got to find the tiles. Okay, you go, oh, I got the tiles, and you got to set them up. Okay, all right, got it. And then you're like, okay, then I got to find these creatures. Okay, so you got to go through all your, maybe if you had it more organized. I didn't. I did organize it after I put it away a little better, put everything in little tiny bags. But you know, you got to find this little thing. Okay, now you got to find the standees. Okay, this one's white, this one's yellow. Okay, all right, now I got to find the cards, the 8 cards that go with, you know, how that AI, that particular monster is going to move. Got to find those cards. Okay, and then and then you got to find the monster sheets. There's the little squares that you put in the sleeves to keep track of their health. It's like, okay, all right, do I have everything? That's one monster. Next monster. Then you got to go find the standees. Find the health trackers, find it, you know, and then you got, a lot of times, 3 different critters, and you got to find all the cards, you get it out there, and you finally get to play the goddamn room after you finally, you've gotten your character. Now, depending on how, I had them all boxed up, and so I just kind of threw it out there, and I played one, and, or two characters, and played through it, and you get through it, and it's like, while you're playing it, it's a fraction of the time that you actually get to play the game, and then you open up, and it's almost like a dreaded, you're like, I don't want, because you're supposed to play 3 different rooms, so you open up that door to go in the next room, and you gotta flip over the card, and you gotta do the whole goddamn setup all over again. You gotta put away all the bad guys, put out the new guys, grab all the cards, grab all the sleeves. Oh my god, this game, it was so frustrating, just reliving that experience. Because I got it in January, the game, and I left it up for like 6 months. I think it was over 6 months in a spot in my, and I just didn't touch it. I didn't want to because I could just tell it was going to be massive undertaking to put it all away. But I finally did. The one thing that I really like, the downtime of this game that I love the most for Gloomhaven is when you actually level up. I mean, it's a process in itself, but you get to get in there and you get to pick 2. You get 2 new cards and you get to look at them and you like to figure out how it's going to work with your other cards. And it's just, and then you get to, you know, put your little check marks and you get to modify your little attack deck and it's just, I love that part, and it takes a long time, but I love that part. I got to find a table to just set this thing up again and never put it down. Never put it away. It's the biggest reason why I can't really love this game, is because of the mass up. Now, you take a game like Folklore, The Affliction, and it has a lot of the same cool stuff. And you little travels, and you draw cards to mark your travels from city to city. And you got battles, and you got skirmishes, you got maps that come out, you got obstacles and stuff, but it's way more streamlined, way more. And in fact, we just got, between sessions, we just put all the components in the two sides of the box and just set it up on top of our we have a little crate for our dog. We just sit up there, and then when we want to play again, we just pull it off, and you can set everything up, in 10, 15 minutes or so, and you can get rolling and then put it all away. And it all fits in this box that's, a fraction of the size. Now, Gloomhaven, hey, for $140 or, and Folklore is half that cost. Gloomhaven, for its value, for what you get, is there's nothing that even compares, I think. I mean, the amount of game you get with Gloomhaven and the value that what you pay for that is sets a bar higher than I think any game is ever gonna try, gonna be able to attain again. That's Gloomhaven. That was my biggest disappointment, the frickin' setup. So now getting to what I was excited about, the biggest surprise, and I talk a lot about this game, and again, in one of the weekly rants, Monsterlands. Monsterlands came out of nowhere. Never even heard of it. Never even, there was no tick of hotness list. There was no nothing. I just walked into my game store one day. I saw it, and I was like looking at the back. I drove off. Got thinking. I was like, I'm gonna do a little research. Came back. I got the game. Ended up playing it. Played it 14 times, and it's still a game nobody's talking about. Maybe it doesn't play all that way. I played it once multiplayer, and I liked it. I thought it went pretty well. It took forever, but when you play it solo, I mean, it comes with its own little campaign thing, and even within the solo arena, I don't think many people are talking about it. I think a lot of people are missing out. I'm not going to be like my favorite of all time or anything like that, but for the amount of hype that it didn't get, it's an incredible game. And so I talked a lot about this game too in the last weekly rant there, and so you can check that out. All right, so it all comes down to the MVP, right? I haven't talked about this game, Auztralia. So Auztralia is a Martin Wallace game, and I was standing in line at my local game store. There was a big sale, and I saw this, but it wasn't really on sale because it just came out, but it's a little discounted. And I got through, and as I'm standing in the line, I'm looking it up, I'm like, oh yeah, all right, solid looking solo. But there was still not much on it. It just came out. So I got back in line, and I bought this game. Busted it out. 14 plays. And I've had it like, I don't know, a little over a week. I can't stop playing it. And it's still up, and I'm still going to be playing it more. This game is, it's awesome. It's, the thing, I really like the theme. Because, one, I'm a track lane kind of guy. I like building track. Martin Wallace, I played a couple of his games. I played Brass. I played Steam. And I know he has other track lane games and stuff, but I like his format of I played Age of Industry, and it's just kind of it's very simple but very complex at the same time. And this has very much his signature on it, but the whole Cthulhu vibe. So there's like this Lovecraft thing going on as you approach the lands of Australia, and then you set up your port and you start digging in, and then the old ones wake up as they rise them and like, hey, who the fuck's on our land? Get off our land! And then you got to battle back, and I don't even know if the story is that that they're there or not. I think it was. Anyway, but what's cool is the way the game plays out. Every game you get to start off for about a third of the game, and you get to start exploring. You send out your tracks, and it sets up randomly, so you've got. And I did a playthrough of this, so if you really want to see kind of what it's about and kind of the rules and stuff, I'll guide you there. But you get to branch out, and you get your rails out there, and you start picking up gold and iron and there's phosphate too that you can pick up. It gives you points. It's big old white rocky looking things, and they give you some gold, and then you get to build up your army but it's not really it's not like a war game at all. It's like little skirmishes that you get to do. And that's cool too, because part of the game is at the end of it, all the monsters are face down, and the bulk of what you're going to score is the monsters you take out. You're going to get victory points for that. Any monsters left are going to count against you, and so if you've got them face up, if you've at least exposed the old ones, they're going to count their face value against you. But if you don't branch out and get out into the outback and expose all the monsters, then they're going to count double. At the end of the game, you got to flip them over and count their victory points double against you. And so part of it is going out, and you got to get your tracks out there far enough because your infantry can only go so far from your tracks. It's got cool little thematic things. Your air balloons, or whatever you call them, airships, can go pretty far from your track. And then certain monsters are affected particularly well by certain military units like artillery or an armored car or something. And but if you take like an armored car and you put it up against a temple, some of the old ones are temples that bad guys can spawn out of, good luck. You're not going to have any, your armored car is not going to do anything. You need infantry. You need airships to drop bombs on those things. And it's all handled with this little deck, this little AI deck that it's 40 cards, and it handles the movement as the old ones wake up. They start coming after you. It handles the damage you do, what each unit does damage, the damage the old ones do to you, and it's all very streamlined, and it's just as complex as it needs to be, and no more than that, and no less, and it just allows you to have all these little quick skirmishes, and it's very satisfying, just a very satisfying experience. And so the first third of the game is you go through, and everything's tracked by, basically the level of action you take takes longer time if you take a really high level action, and less time if you take just a generic action. And so this marker that eventually you use that goes around the board to track your victory points at the end of the game. First, it's a time tracker. Part of a resource that you spend to do the things you do is time. And so you're taking your time, and you can see the tracker for the old ones up there. I think it starts on 22. So you've got 22 time worth of stuff that you can do to get your tracks out there and get yourself in position and build up your army and all this stuff. And then the old ones start showing up and appearing and moving, and it's kind of all handled with that little deck that I was talking about, which you better sleeve up pretty quick, because man, you're going to burn through that card and have to shuffle it, burn through that deck, have to shuffle it, 3+ times. And but you don't have to overdo it. I realized, and someone on Board Game Geek kind of reminded me, because I was like, this is annoying. Why did they make this deck big? And like, you really, because each card handles so many different things, each card, you can just damn near just flip the deck over and just go again, and it's gonna react totally different. So so that's pretty cool. That whole system, and the fact that you can just run skirmishes out there, try to expose monsters, taking them, but you better watch out, because if you expose Cthulhu, holy shit, he's gonna come, and if they get to your port and they beat you in combat, they shut you down. You got to score right away. But ultimately, you want the full length play of game, and you can set out farms too, which get you money. But then the old ones can come and they can land on it, and they blight your farm, and it's just incredible how much game. And then when you're done, you look at this spread, and it has this epic feel to this game that you played. And win or lose, I just enjoy it so much. And I lose mostly, but one complaint that I have about the game is that it's just not that hard, and it's so swingy. Well, because of the swinginess. I mean, you either get demolished or I tend to win barely. And well, no, I can't say that. I've won pretty handily sometimes, but it's because the setup is so random, and sometimes you have a bunch of old ones out there, and sometimes you don't, and you got more resources. And so it's just, and the old ones that come out certainly matter, because there's a whole stack of them, and sometimes Cthulhu doesn't come out, so you don't even have to worry. If Cthulhu's out there, he's worth 15 points, and you don't expose him, and you flip it over, bam, 30 points. That's like half the points the game can score sometimes, and it's just one guy. And if he doesn't show up, then the game's a lot easier. I mean, it just is. So, but it has cool little ways you can change it up. You got this little solo deck that you can flip over and give yourself different ways to try and, goals to go for in a game. So maybe if you're military heavy, the goal will change you up and get you making farms to try and score the most points, and all these great ways to modify it. Also, too, you can play the game with one board, or you can play all the way up to 4 players cooperatively. And it wouldn't be that hard. I've only played with 2, and I really enjoy it with 2, playing kind of a co-op against the game with 2 players solo. And it just flows so smooth. And you can play this game in easily under an hour. I mean, if I'm playing one-on-one, it's a half hour. Easy. I mean, you could blast through that game, and it's just so fun to have a game that you can just start from scratch. And the setup, it takes, and the setup is actually enjoyable. You put these little things out, and these little tiles out, and you put 13 of them when you play Insane, like I do, because I'm crazy. And then you put those tiles out, and and then it just sets up nicely. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is but it's a joy to set this game up in a weird way and just get everything out. And then you get to look at the board and you get to make a plan. And then you go out and you bust that plan out. Never goes quite as planned. And it's so satisfying. So Australia, that is my MVP of the month. I love it. And as soon as I'm done here, actually, I'm going to go up and I'm going to play it like right now. So anyway, thank you for joining me. I appreciate your time. I would love to hear your thoughts. What are you playing? What are some of your biggest disappointments or surprise game or anything, or some of your thoughts? Do you have any questions on what I'm playing? And happy to answer them. Happy to chat. Oh, what's coming up? I'm playing Wendake, Wendaki, I don't know, and Dice Settlers. So that's another one by the same guy that did Anachrony. He designed this game and the solo. But Teotihuacan, oh man, like I said, that word didn't, pan out as much. I don't know. The verdict's still out on that. I'm telling. So, but those are a couple of games that I've got on the docket that I haven't even opened yet. I'm excited about. Thanks again for watching on Board Game Rants. And until next time, I'm out. Have a happy holiday. I'm out.